Welcome back to Real Conversations, episode 2, with your boy Captain Randy and Austin Croce. Let's get back into it.
Yep, we've been fishing a lot this week too. We've done a lot of fishing together and done a little bit of fishing separate, so we'll have a lot of fun stories to talk about. I'm excited to hear about your trip, smallie fishing on the Fox today too. Or not the Fox, where'd you end up going?
I actually went to the Kishwaukee River today, just to kind of throw it back. I actually grew up fishing that river, so that's like a fun place for me to go every so often. And I knew that the river flow was going to be perfect. I knew after all that rain that they got, I was like, man, it's going to be so good. So I went out there, did a little bit of fishing. I only caught one, but it was fun. I caught it on a Megabass Dark Sleeper. So it was on a little...
It always catches fish.
Yeah, on a little 6'3" medium light. So it was a fun catch. Yeah, it felt good.
I've never fished the Kishwaukee. We were just talking about that when we were driving trout fishing the other day. I want to fish it. I feel like so many people when I worked at Cabela's always fished it, and ever since I started working at Anglers, I just like never even hear it anymore. And I guess that's part of like just different areas of people that we get. Like we get a lot of Chicago people. Like we're in Palatine, so it's a different group of people than Hoffman Estates too.
Right,
so
right.
I'd love to go out there and fish it. What's it like?
It's awesome. It's a little bit smaller than the Fox, but it's kind of similar. But it's also a little bit shallower. Like you can't take a boat out there, for example.
What can you catch?
You can catch smallies, you can catch largemouth, you can catch walleye, you can catch northern. I did catch a muskie there once, but I think that was a fluke. There's not typically
Not like a place
there.
people go really to like target them or something.
No, but yeah, and I think there might be sauger there too. But
weren't you saying there's a lot of little like runoffs too, where it's almost like ponds that you get to fish?
There's a lot of branches from the Kishwaukee River. Like there's actually one of the branches is in like Huntley area, which is where I fish a lot now. And that's got a lot of the northern pike and stuff from the Kish, and the bass are typically pretty thick and healthy just because they're from the river.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's cool.
The rivers, I mean, like with the rain, you can always, like, you never know what you're going to catch because I feel like the fish just move around. Because you get bait in the current and it's muddied up a little bit, like, it just gets all the fish active.
Like, and after fishing in St. Joe and, you know, like fishing like what we did at the Root the other day, I just felt so much more confident just seeing, like, my bait flow with the water. It was just, I don't know, it just felt good fishing the river.
We've had so little rain this year, too, like, it's almost been discouraging when you go to the rivers because so many of the smaller ones are like kind of down. And yeah, I mean, you can still catch fish in some places, but it's not like, oh wow, look at this flow over here, and like you're excited to go fish a bunch of different spots. And like that's how I felt when we went to the Root, like after all this rain too. Like it was finally like not like this spot doesn't even look that great. It was like every spot we went to was kind of like a little bit of hope and like good deep current in it, like more fishable water finally too.
Yeah. That was honestly a fun trip. We actually went out we started in Kenosha. That was...
Yeah, we had a widespread day.
Yeah, it was a beautiful morning, like literally almost too beautiful. Like there was no wind, like clear
good vibes
skies,
all
like
around.
just great vibes. Like it was just a beautiful morning. We started off with one...
Tell them about your jerkbait fish first.
Yeah, dude, that was awesome. So I've been dying to catch a brown on a jerkbait, and we've been catching mostly on the square bills. So I've been really throwing the jerkbait a lot. Haven't been getting bit. But I finally was reeling it in, and like mid-retrieve, I look down right at my feet, and I'm standing on some rocks and stuff, and I see this brown trout just positioning himself perfectly in the rocks. And obviously I see him as I'm bringing in my bait, and I'm just like, this guy looks like he's about to eat. Like it for sure looks like he's hungry. And I'm just like mending my line so that I can get that husky jerk like right in front of his face. And right when I got it by his tail, I give my rod a nice pop, and this bait just skitters off like this, and this thing just goes 360, just inhales the head first.
I didn't even know what was going on too, because I was so focused on what I was doing. I just looked over, and all of a sudden it's just thrashing right at the rocks, and it's just doubled over on his rod too.
That's so cool. That was one of the coolest and I was just complaining about how I haven't gotten a fish to eat right at my feet. So it was so cool to finally have one do that.
I thought you were like yelling that you were about to break off, because like that's why I like sprinted over there.
Yeah,
like,
Buddy is quick. He's quick with the net.
You can see all of it in his YouTube. He's gonna be posting a YouTube video on his channel too. So
in like 5 months.
But you'll be able to see like we got a lot of really cool shots from that trip on video, and like that jerkbait eat. I really hope that one got on camera. Were you able to see it?
I didn't even look at it. My iPad's so full of content.
Oh, really? I'm curious. I wonder if you're going to be able to...
I think it's going to be... My buddy was just talking about it today. We've got to find out if there's like polarized lenses you can get for a GoPro.
That would be really,
because
really
that
cool.
would be so clutch. Because I'm not sure if... You might... Usually you can. I mean, Lake Michigan's pretty clear. I'll be interested to see. I got to look
And if
it
was right there and you could see it, like, at least you can... Maybe not as clear as you saw it with your eyes, but you can probably see at least part of it.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like... And even if not, it's still a cool video, too.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a fun day. And then it was the only one we caught in Kenosha, though. And then we made the executive decision. He made the executive decision to go up the route.
My buddy we brought with, he wanted to go fish he was trying to learn, like, a lot of variety on how to target them. So wanted to start there and got the one fish kind of early and wanted to still make sure we had enough time to go do a couple different type of techniques for him. So he wanted to go fish the river. So we went there and I mean, that was a blast. That was so much fun. Like, I've always felt a little, like, discouraged going to fish them. Like, I've caught them. Like, we said this in the last video. I've caught them here and there, but never enough where it's like, I know if I go there, I'm going to catch them. And this was the first time where I feel like what I researched before we went, looking at the flow, the rain, the weather, thinking about melt-off, stuff like that, and the type of runoff that the Milwaukee versus the Root and all of the spots that we would fish would kind of compare to each other. I felt like that was exactly what it looked like when we got there, so that gave me confidence. And then once we got there, we saw fish. So, I mean, like, that was immediately, like, a guarantee. Like, all right, we at least picked the right spot. And I think just getting a float drop, like, pretty soon, like, we didn't get it right away, but pretty early after being there, like, it was just, like, a confidence boost. And I think just not even for that trip, just going forward. Like, now if we do have a rough time in the harbor or something, even if it's not the best day, like how we thought it was for the Root,
right?
Like, we know, like, hey, like, we can go to this spot, or like at least what to look for, like what holds fish and all 100%. Of that too. Like a really good educational experience, and we caught fish too, so it was fun.
Yeah, it felt so good. Man, it's all new. Like, I literally that was all new to me. I've never really, other than fishing the St. Joe, I've never floated before. I floated a bobber or anything, so it's just fun.
It made me feel like I missed a lot of fish too, because when I've floated, I haven't even floated at a ton, but when I have, like, I've done it without a bobber. Like, I've done so much drifting where it's like just spawn sack with light split shots and drifting that down the current, or a tube or a fly, and like the I don't know what they're called, like, but the little like puff ball, like the little salmon egg type looking flies that we were talking about. I've done stuff like that, but I've never truly done it with the proper float. Like, consistently. I've done it, tried it here, tried it there, but never enough to actually learn it. So it was nice to actually spend some time doing it finally.
Heck yeah, it felt really good. And that one you got, I'll maybe edit that in the little edit.
We'll pop up a
picture because that was, I mean, when you guys see the picture,
the shoulders,
that was an awesome
super
fish,
tall and super wide, and the colors just beautiful and strong. Like,
honest to God, the most beautiful fish I have seen in a long, long time.
And just pure power when you feel it or look at it. And the same thing with, he caught a really big male steelhead. We'll pop up a picture of that one too.
Yeah.
It was a long fish, and even him trying to hold it. We were talking about it on the car ride home, like, got to make sure you really have a grip on these fish because they're powerful. Like, you don't want to drop them.
They're like literally like.
It's incredible. That's why you see a lot of people, like, if you can't hold them, like, keep them in the water. Cause,
that's honestly that's honestly why I wish I'd had waders, is just to be able to handle the fish in the water.
Yeah, that's what any advice I'll give, like, to anyone who's targeting them. Don't hold them above rocks, above grass, even above anything hard, unless you're very, very confident in yourself that you're not going to drop them, because they're very powerful and you're going to kill a fish. And I mean, it's not the end of the world if you kill a fish, like a trout here or there, and you end up taking it home, but you don't want to kill a fish from neglect of just holding it. So, like, it's just important to make sure. That's why you see a lot of people holding them in the water and stuff like that too. But if we had them in a landing net too, so they were perfectly fine in the water, take them out for a picture and let them go after that too.
Absolutely. And yeah, that was
it was nice to see how strong both of our fish kicked off too.
Yeah, dude, that's the coolest thing about it. I think
both of the big steelheads so powerful, and they swam off perfectly fine. Yeah, it was nice to see that. That's what I was worried about with my pike too. Should I tell them about that story?
Dude. Oh my God, yeah, we've been doing our best not to tell each other stories throughout this week, but it's been a little bit of a difficult time. But yeah, tell us about that.
We told bits and pieces these stories to each other, but never really like the full on story.
Well, first off, we're gonna put the picture of the pike so that you know.
Yeah, so
what
here's
we're
the picture
talking
of that pike.
Yep.
Big Lake Michigan pike. You can see the red tail on it. That's because it's stressed out, and that's you'll understand why when you hear the story too. So I went up to Kenosha first to go do some brown trout fishing by myself. I caught one, didn't fish for a super long time. I met up with one of my buddies, Cam, and we fished for a little bit, had a little bit of a rough day, and decided to head home. And I've been talking about going pike fishing for a while. I put it on my Instagram and stuff like that, but I didn't really pick a day that I wanted to just go and target them. And as I was driving home, I always pass a bunch of harbors on Lake Michigan, and I passed one that I always thought, like, I know there's good pike in there. I've never really fished it, but I'm going to go stop there and see if maybe I'll catch a pike. Maybe I'll catch anything. I wasn't really going with just the mindset of catching a pike, but
Right.
I was thinking about that because I had pike on my mind the past couple days.
Right. No, I remember seeing that story too.
Yeah, and I pull in there, and the one harbor is completely locked up, and the front half of it's open with some birds, but it's not really fishable at all unless you were able to go on the piers. And I drive all the way around to try to find some open water by the mouth, and I actually find there's a little back area, and that whole back area is all open water. So I would say, like, I'm pumped that I found open water, but I'm not excited about it because I was expecting to be able to fish this whole harbor, and like I only had this one little area that was open. So I parked my truck on the side of the road, didn't even park in the parking lot. So I'm like, I'm not wasting like this long walk to go like fish this spot. I'm probably not going to catch anything. I parked my truck there. I only grabbed one rod. I leave my phone in my truck too, and no pliers, no nothing. I just walk all the way down. I see this one spot where there's like some structure in the water, and it looks like just like a spot that would hold some sort of fish. So my low confidence, like if there's a fish, it's got to be at least somewhere around that area. So I walk all the way over there, and my third cast, I just get smoked, like right next to this one pillar that's up there. And I thought at first it was a steelhead or something because it was just strip and drag and running. And it was starting to come up, like it almost on the jump like a steelhead would.
Yeah.
And it comes up and it just does that typical pike like head thrash, and it's just that big head just coming out of the water. And I don't even like think about where my line is or anything. I was like, oh my god, like trying to pull him a little bit to get him to turn because he's running out there, and I get him to turn and come back. And then that's when I see like my line is just like in his mouth, like, and there's no way in my head like I'm going to be able to land this fish, like, and it's a giant. I realize how big it is at this point too. So I'm like feeling my bibs. I'm like, where's my phone? Like, oh shit, it's in my truck. Like, no one's gonna believe me, like, because I thought for sure I was gonna break off it like pretty soon on this fish, and I just wanted to get a video of it so I could be like, at least like you can see I hooked into this giant Lake Michigan pike, and my phone's gone. So I think something clicked in my head then too. I'm like, I have to land this fish. Like, there's no way I can let this fish go and have no one believe me this happened. And like even my buddy I was with, like I just left him. I didn't tell it. I told him I'm going home. Like, I'm tired.
Right.
Like, he's not gonna believe this story that this happened. And it's starting to come up towards the rocks, and there's like a little corner here. So I'm trying to like get it to walk towards this corner without freaking out, and it's coming down the rocks perfectly like how I wanted. And then it does a big head shake right when it gets to the corner and just completely snaps me off. But when it snaps me off, it's still like, it like settles down for a second, and as soon as it settled down, I just tail grabbed it, like, because I don't think it realized that it didn't take off as soon as it broke me off.
Right.
It head shook and then kind of sat in that corner for a second.
So
I
you
just,
didn't even know he was.
I don't think it. Yeah, I think it still thought it was pinned up to my line.
Right.
And I just reached down and grabbed its tail, and I mean the thing was big, so like I couldn't just lift it out of the water. Kind of like grabbed its head. Then once I grabbed its tail, it knew, so it was thrashing around, and I got him up. By the time I turn around, there's a whole boatyard behind me, and there's like all these people that were working there. They all came down. They're like, "Oh my god, big pike! That's so cool!" And I'm like, "Oh, this is perfect! Like, there's all these people. Like, I can actually get a nice picture of this pike now too." So I walked up there. I'm talking to these guys, and I'm holding it up, and they're taking a picture, and it just like clicks in my head. I'm like, "Where's my bait?" Like, it broke me off, but like, I just saw my line was in its mouth, so like it's in there somewhere. So like, I look, and like, because I'm holding it like on the gills here, I can see its mouth open a little bit, and I look in there, and it's just gone. Like, it's in its stomach. I was fishing a treble bait too, so like,
and no pliers.
there's no blood or anything, so I didn't even think about it before that. But then I was like, oh, I need to get this out. I had no pliers, and like, I mean, I have a scar from a big muskie. Like, I've been bit on my hand all over by pike. Like, I don't like really messing around with them, especially one that size. So I'm like, oh, my truck is so far. Like, what am I going to do in my head? And, like, these guys are still just taking a picture, but I'm just, like, thinking, like, oh, shit, I got to get this out. I didn't say anything to them. and I just take off, and I'm like running with this pike like in my arms to my truck because I had a pair of not even pliers, I had a pair of bolt cutters from not bolt cutters, crimpers from shark fishing in the bed of my truck.
Yeah.
And you can use those as pliers good enough to unhook it. And I get all the way there, and like there's people driving by, they probably think I'm running with this fish to put it in the bed of my truck. I get there and I grab them and pop it out, and luckily there's still no blood. I mean, this fish's tail is so red. I'm thinking like, I really hope this fish survives. Like, as soon as I get to my truck too, I grab my phone, grab the pliers, and I popped up my phone so I didn't even have to take pictures. I just like took a video of the whole thing so then I could just hold it up and then run back down to the water and let it go. And no blood the whole time. So all of that goes perfectly smooth. And then I'm walking it down this steep ass rock hill, and like I'm carrying this giant fish, hoping it doesn't thrash my arms, cut me again. And I get it down there, and I'm holding it in the water for like a minute. And honestly, it felt like it was stiffening. Like it felt like I was like, oh, there's no way this fish is gonna make it. I already had low expectations, even though there was no blood. Like it was just out of the water for so long. And I'm holding it there. I'm taking a video of releasing, and I almost like half-assed taking the video too because I'm not like excited about the fish anymore.
Right.
I'm thinking in my head like, should I keep this fish? Like, what should I really do? And as I'm thinking that, I feel it move a couple times. I'm like, oh, maybe I should just hold it here. Like the water's cold. It's cold outside. It's raining. Like this fish might actually be okay. And I hold it there for probably another minute or two, and it just kicks off perfectly strong, and it actually jumps. And when it jumped, it turned around and swam back to me. And like it was kind of cruising down the rocks, and I let it be and went to go fish another spot. And then when I was coming back to my truck to go home, I saw it cruising along the rocks again, and I walked down there, and it spooked off when it saw me. So it was definitely perfectly fine. But I mean, like the craziest sequence of events. Like,
dude, I can't believe.
And it was so last second decision too. Like I know, I can't believe it broke me off, and I got it. That's like
tail grab.
Like, oh my god, like it was almost like a tail grab, like using like a clamp, like grabbing it, because like I didn't like grab him and lift him. It was more just like I got a grip on him and then got his gills too.
Right. No,
I just
can't imagine that, like the hand land. That's a.
I just can't believe that nothing bad happened too. Like running with that pike, because when I got to my truck, what I thought about too was like I was running with my hands in its gills, like avoiding its gills, but like in its gill plate holding them, and the crankbait was like right in there. So if that thing thrashed around, like my hand would have been stuck in its mouth, stuck to the crankbait, and like that would have been a tough look.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
It was like the biggest pike I've caught for Lake Michigan.
Awesome. Like I'm happy you got to document it and stuff.
Yeah, like I'm happy I at least got pictures and stuff, and that the fish swam off. Because like if it was one or the other, like I would have been pissed if I didn't have pictures and the fish swam off. Like, and it wasn't like I went to get my phone to get pictures and then it didn't swim off. Like I had to get pliers. Like it was just like the whole sequence of events like made me feel good about the fish too. Like, and the fact that it was fine at that and too was nice. But that was crazy.
That's awesome, dude. Love it. Absolutely love it.
It makes me want to fish for more like toothy critters too. Like
I agree, dude. That's what I've been feeling.
Like we've been doing so much trout. Like
I know.
I need like there's other big fish you can target. Like that pike reminded me that like I love them so much, and I almost forgot about them in a sense. Like they're so much fun.
Especially in our area, like we can catch some sweet freshwater fish. Like we might as well take advantage of
a muskie too. Like that's a big apex predator. Like you can't just forget about how incredible an animal and fish like that is too. Like, it's something you still need to take advantage of for sure.
Facts.
Like I almost got caught up in that like saltwater too. I feel like because like doing all of that like made me like, oh, I only want to catch a big shark or something like that. Like I did a shark trip in August, and that just kind of changed like my perspective on a lot of fishing. But catching that fish at first made me like, oh, why would I want to do anything else? Oh, my buddy, one of my buddies from high school too, he went to Florida this past weekend, and he caught a big bull shark down there too.
For real?
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of land-based shark fishing. That made me think about it too. Want to go down there and do that again.
I guess now's that time. My grandpa's actually down there. He's been doing a lot of fishing.
There's a lot of guys that go down there, like especially like the Keys area too. That seems really popular for like fishermen in the winter. I would love to do a trip like that.
That would be sweet.
Have you gone down? Have you fished in Florida? I forgot.
I've been to Florida, like a handful of times. Yeah, my grandparents used to
didn't you do snook or something? You told me.
Yeah, so. No, I actually went to. So I caught a snook when we went to.
Wasn't there a story you like caught a snook and fell or something? I feel like that's like in the back of my head for some reason. Unless it's someone else.
No, that might have been someone else.
It must be someone
I did catch a nice snook though, and that is a highlight of my fishing career.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was in. Gosh, I wish I think I was a junior in high school, maybe a senior. But yeah, my grandparents took us on their 50th anniversary to St. Martin, and we had this canal that went in the back of our resort, and oh my gosh, it was loaded with huge tarpon,
Really?
snook. Like, yeah,
Could you see them
you
just
can
swimming?
literally just see them
That's
swimming by.
sick.
Yeah, and I hooked up with, I remember counting like a dozen different tarpon. Like,
What'd you use to catch
it
them?
was so we brought like so we brought travel rods, like 7-foot medium action spinning rods, and we brought like 3,000 size spinning reels with like 20-pound braid
Yeah.
and whatnot, and about a half a dozen, maybe a dozen spoons. You know, no more than a dozen.
Yeah.
And we got there on Sunday, and I think it was by Wednesday, I was on the last spoon.
That's
Like,
good though.
literally, yeah.
That's a good problem
dude. There
to
was
have.
no bait shops or anything, so we were scrambling. But the first like 3 days were the best fishing. The end of the week was honestly kind of slower fishing wise, but I hooked into like 11 different tarpon. And the first
Did you
day
land
we
any?
got there, so I didn't land any tarpon.
Really?
I'm so.
Well, I mean, not many.
dude, I got a bone to pick with them.
That's like the
tarpon.
hardest fish. One of the hardest fish to land though.
They jump,
Especially from shore, at least too.
Dude, the most amount of jumps I got, because I was just counting their jumps. I was like,
Yeah.
I almost have no chance. Some of them were just so big, like with the tackle that I had, I just had no chance. I was just like
What was
watching
the
them,
biggest one you hooked? Do you think?
zzz, big, like
Like how big?
like
100-pounder or bigger?
or
Like longer? Like
like
as long as this camo to that
no,
camo?
probably the biggest one was like 60 or so inches.
That's a big one though.
I'd say.
That's still a big one.
So
Yeah.
strong, jumping out of the water like crazy,
That's
like a dozen
insane.
different times in one fight, like. But yeah, such a crazy time. And the first day we got there, like literally checked in, I put my rod together, went right out behind our. It was the coolest vacation. Oh my god, we walked right back out of our hotel room basically or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And there's the canal. I was casting for like probably 2 hours. Honestly, I played off like it was a short while, but I was casting for a long time. Ended up hooking up with a huge snook, and
Really?
it was a huge snook for me. I mean, I don't for the guys down south. It's probably not huge,
But
it
like
was
a
good
substantially
size, like a
yeah.
35 incher probably. You know,
Even
like,
if you don't like, I feel like even if you didn't know what a species was,